keep coming, and Arizona will pay a price. But I do want to share something with you, the backdrop of what transpired, because a lot of this is strategy. You got to start working out strategy. So the day that the Homeland Security funding was terminated was a Friday night. Does anybody know what happened during that day? The checks went out to all the employees. So what would it have been if the Speaker and the Majority Leader said, hey, listen, Congress, we're going to stay this weekend in Washington, D.C. We're going to let everybody scream that the Republicans are shutting down the government. Well, by the way, 80+% of all the employees in Homeland Security are mandatory employees. So you take your hits with the media. Just say, hey, we didn't shut the government down. And what happens Monday morning when people open up their bank accounts and their post office boxes? The check's in the mail. So they didn't shut down the government. You just bought 2 weeks. Now make the president put people on furlough. How about making him make a move? But we were so cheap and so indignant about the process, we folded like a cheap suit. So we got to start looking at strategy. You're only blessed with so much of it, so you got to take care of this. We actually looked for this audit in March of 2015 and was supported by 29 other members of Congress. Okay? So we're trying to be ahead of the curve. Next one. Future of immigration, I think, is very contaminated based upon what this president has decided to do. It's his way or the highway. He's in violation of the law, and there's more to this story. Okay? Without the rule of law, what else is he going to do? We saw at net neutrality that they violated the government interaction within the internet. Now going to start to rule it and credential it. Tax reform, he's actually threatening to actually increase taxes on capital gains by himself by executive order. He's also talking about reforms within the IRS, as well as takings of land and water throughout the country. We have 18 months, folks. We better start having a strategy. Once again, stand for something or fall for everything. Next one. So by the way, did everybody drink their whiskey today? Because water's for fighting over. That's right. In Arizona, we've got the most articulate water law. Once again, we have four Supreme Court rulings that defy the EPA from doing what they're trying to do and overreach within the waters of the U.S. So it's not just the legislative powers that this president is intercepting, it's also the judicial aspect. Okay? We waited along for a while, and next one. So we actually put this one, a good friend of mine, Steve Stock from Florida, put this in last year. It didn't get through to the Senate. We actually put this forward. It's got 175 bipartisan co-sponsors. Transportation Infrastructure, who has germaneness over this process, has done nothing to this point. The EPA administrator believes that she will come forward in April with some of these rules and regulations. This bill needs to move. This bill needs to move. The Senate is already concocting something. This baby is ready to rock and roll. How would this affect you? Who's got a house? If you wanted to plant a tree in your backyard, you would be required to get an EPA permit. I'm just telling you. That's exactly what this is all about. It's about power and oversight. Okay? Next one. Obamacare. We saw King versus Burwell come up in the court discussions. Folks, we just missed another point of process. We can't reform the whole process, but we can make some huge inroads. Who likes the fact that you, the taxpayer, just bailed out the insurance industries by $4 billion this last year? Anybody like that? No. Thank you, Lord. Why didn't we go back for more choice? Why didn't we send a signal to the Supreme Court and break up the monopolies of the insurance industry? Let's talk about it. Let's pretend for a second that we're all cardiac surgeons here. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to price fix. What we're going to do is we're going to price fix what an open heart surgery or a bypass surgery is all going to be. What happens with that? We're under the Sherman antitrust laws. The FTC finds out about it. We all go to jail and we go to fines. So how is it that the insurance industry knows everything about each and every one of you? That's called collusion. In 1944, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Southeastern underwriters that they were not exempt from the antitrust laws. The insurance industry ran to Congress, and Congress intercepted that with a thing called McCarran-Ferguson. Why wouldn't we have passed the repeal on McCarran-Ferguson to give a hint, a wink-wink, back at the Supreme Court saying, we got your back? So that they do the right things in King versus Burwell and say that the subsidies in the federal exchanges are not legal. Guess what that does for you? That means each of those insurance companies got to compete for your dollars. Gives us more opportunity and starts lowering cost. Isn't that amazing? That's what we want, right? Choice. Okay? Well, how about when King versus Burwell goes down that we say, listen, we don't want the money back. We want that money to go into an HSA, a health savings account, as a defined contribution. Now what we've done is we've outflanked the president almost immediately. What's he going to do? Turn the IRS on everybody? He will, but good luck. But once people have that power of dollars in their accounts, it makes a difference. For those that didn't get a subsidy, we give a pre-tax dollar deposit as a defined contribution into their HSA. And then remember that thing called premium support that Paul Ryan talks about? Does anybody understand it? Well, let me explain. It's very easy. We've been doing it for over 20 years. In my district, does that help? Okay. In my district, the average age of my individual is 55 years of age. The average person is dual eligible, which means they're eligible for Medicaid and Medicare. That's how poor we are there. What happens when that individual cannot afford their Medicare premium? Who pays for it? Medicaid. That's called premium support. Okay, so we've been doing it over time. What's a great group right now who's having some problems? Where's my veterans? Everybody liking your veteran care these days? Wouldn't you rather go pick your own doctor and be able to go anywhere you want? Yeah. How about we do premium support and allow you to do that and go anywhere? Do you know instantaneously you get more people covered in that insurance marketplace than Obamacare ever thought? Do we fix everything? No, but you can't. Because what we've been doing is we've been destroying medicine since 1965. Yeah. So we've got to build a marketplace. This is the first place. Allow people to have money in their pocket to make the choice, give them more choice, and let the free market start to come around. We've missed this. We've missed this already. We still can recoup this in June when the decision comes. But here we go. We've got a definite opportunity here. Okay, next one. This is what I just talked to you about McCarran-Ferguson. It makes them compete just like all the rest of us compete. Okay, gives us more choice. Go ahead. First and most important aspect, and puts a whole bunch of people in opportunities. Go ahead, next one. I'm going to go through it a little bit faster. I put this slide up here. I don't know if you remember this little gal from Prescott that lost her life helping out refugees in Syria. Just keep her name and her family in your thoughts and prayers. It's a very difficult thing for this family. We tried in a number of aspects to try to get her saved, and it did not work. Okay, next one. Go ahead. But what we did find out is that we have to put a bill forward for a bounty system, right? That's how the West was won. We took evil guys, we put bounties on their head, and people turned them in. Well, how about we do the same thing in the Middle East? So actually, this is actually now started. There's up to a $5 million bounty on the people that have actually been indicted for kidnapping and killing an American citizen. Okay? I dropped it in the House. Marco Rubio dropped it in the Senate. And actually the State Department and the DOD actually adopted this. They had the ability to executive move this around. So that's actually occurring right now. Okay? But it took some push from us as well. Next one. Budgets. Folks, this is important. We have to start looking at these budgets. This year is probably the first year that we may pass a budget in 10 years. Okay? I hope. God, I hope. But remember, most of the budget deals with these blue areas called defense and discretionary non-defense. See the red? That's automatic spending. It's on autopilot unless you make changes. There's a couple that are going to change here dramatically, or could. This little sliver up here at interest on our debt. If it goes to historical norms, this will be one of the largest things on that pie graph. It will supersede even Social Security, which is down here at 808 this year, or in 2013. This is how far behind the federal government is with numbers, okay? And that could happen. We're going to see some inflation starting to hit. But if we don't start answering in regards to some of these questions on how we make this more efficient, we're not going to have a budget. And why is it important? Because if you start looking at the maps, the baby boomers, a lot of them come online, and we start taking off. So we've got to make those reforms. I'm going to hit two of those. I don't have all the answers, by the way. I don't think anybody does. But this is why I keep bringing it up, because maybe one of you does. Social Security. When we started Social Security, there were 23 workers for every retiree. Today, 2.1 and falling fast. When we started Social Security, it was meant for a 2 to 4 year window. Today, we're asking 10 to 14 years. Yes, it is your money. The government did take it out of a lockbox. But even if they put it in the lockbox, let's look at that money. In fact, I'm going to go back and look at 50-50 hindsight, all the way back, and use the best management practices of that money. At best, you get 7 to 8 years. So when you ask kids what's in it for them, this is the first thing they say. Why am I paying out for seniors? Is it going to be there for me? Let's go to the second one, Medicare. This is going to balloon even faster. Social Security is an easier one to fix. But in Medicare, in 1965, when you had a heart attack, $13 buys you enough glycerin tablets and bed rest, which was state of the art. Today, we're going to put you on a table, we're going to open up your chest, we're going to resect vessels, we're going to put new valves in. We may give you a new heart and the medications that go with it. It comes at a cost. And we have hired people that will not address this in front of the American people. I watched it happen in the last election cycle. Everybody remember Kirsten Sinema? What was her placation to seniors? I will never touch your Social Security and Medicare. If you don't fix this formula, you'll never have to. You'll never get it. Oh, here's how incredulous we are sitting on that line. What happens for a moment if the Chinese yuan becomes the world marketplace of currency? You can print the money, all the money you want. That $4 loaf of bread is going to be $4,000. You can't print it fast enough. You're toast. That's why we have to have this conversation. I also want to leave you with one point. Remember, people said with sequestration we didn't cut the budget? It was just the rate of increase. Notice this number up here in 2012. Spending $3.54 trillion, and in 2013 it was $3.45 trillion. Sequestration did work. In fact, the next number over here on 14 will be less than that. This year will be bigger because they've lifted the caps off of sequestration. It did work. We didn't have big boys and girls, so there were cuts across it. Yes, who wants a strong military? I do. Well, so look at this number. We went from 670 to 625. Now, what if I told you who was business owners here? Who owned a business? Who balanced their budget in their household? What if I told you out of this budget right here in defense, 1 out of every $5 is spent pushing paper called procurement? Are you happy with that? No. Now, you could find another $60 billion. Why don't we tell the military, if you find it, you keep it? We can't keep throwing money at these problems and saying, okay, they'll go away by themselves. We have to hold people accountable. This industry right here has never been audited. Never. They have an order by Congress from 15 years ago to be audited. This makes perfect sense, except in Washington, D.C. That's why I'm on the first plane out of there and the last plane to go to there. You ought to see my water paniards. I can only stay back there till I run out of Arizona water. Then I got to come home. Next one. Next one, Trees. Thomas Jefferson really understood this. If there was one power he could take away from the federal government, the power of borrowing. He knew the problem.